First system for the semester is endocrine. Major characteristics of, first section is on the general characteristics. Major functions include regulating metabolism, maintaining homeostasis, and stimulating growth and reproduction. There's a lot of finer details involved here that we'll get into as we go. The endocrine system has glands that produce chemicals that are used for long-distance communication. Cells talk to each other with chemicals the way we do with language. Even when it's the nervous system, those electrical signals are still chemical because it's ions moving, and then they use a neurotransmitter to talk to the final cell. Endocrine means secreting inside. So endocrine glands secrete into body fluids, either the interstitial fluid around the cells or into the blood, as opposed to exocrine glands that secrete into ducts and conduct the secretion to a surface, like sweat or digestive enzymes, because the inside of the digestive tract counts as a surface. Hormones are the long-distance chemical messengers used. Target cells are cells that can respond to the message. Endocrine and nervous both control other systems and can connect distant cells within the body. We have two separate control systems because each one can do things the other one can't, in part because of the different ways they work. Nervous system is very quick to take effect, seconds or less. Think of contracting a muscle. You're doing it even before you thought much about it. But the effects only last until the signal stops. Some endocrine signals can kick in quickly. Some may take hours to have effect, but they last longer, several minutes or even several days, depending on the hormone. While the nervous system uses neurotransmitters, endocrine uses hormones. The nervous system carries the message to a specific cell or multiple cells through the action potential on the neuron. The endocrine system releases the hormone into the blood. It gets to the entire body, but only the target cells respond. This diagrams how the message is transmitted in either case. So with nervous, the chemical is released right where it's going. Endocrine is released at the source and can go everywhere. So nervous system lets you be more precise in the signaling. Endocrine lets you broadcast a message to a wider group of cells. Exocrine versus endocrine secretion. So the endocrine, as I said, secrete into body fluids. Most of their secretions are hormones. Exocrine goes through ducts onto a surface. This includes sweat glands, digestive fluids, and so on. Both are usually made of epithelial tissue, but there are a couple of endocrine glands that are made of nervous tissue. Hormones, the substances secreted by endocrine cells into the blood, can affect distant target cells, and only small amounts are needed. Say, one hormone molecule per cell maybe a couple. but that's a very tiny amount compared to what's in our whole body fluids. The amounts are so small that early on studying pollution, people thought, oh, it's such a tiny amount, it doesn't matter. But it was the same amount as hormones in our blood, and so if the pollution molecule was anything like the hormone, it would affect us the same way. Now, some hormones are used short range. We often call those paracrine, which means secreting nearby. So, paracrine signals go into the interstitial fluid and affect cells nearby. An example of this is inflammation. When the mast cells release histamine and heparin, they affect local blood vessels. There's also autocrine secretion. Auto means self. This is like writing yourself a note, leaving yourself a voicemail or something. The cell secretes a hormone that then binds to its own receptors and tells it to do something. The specific hormones we're going to look at are all longer distance. But we'll see some paracrine later on. Questions on the general properties before we look at how hormones affect the target cells? So, what makes a cell a target cell is it has the right receptor for the hormone. Some kind of surface protein that the hormone can bind to. Without the receptors, the cell can't even tell the hormone is there. It's like being tuned into a different radio station. If you're listening to the country station, your radio's not going to pick up Wits, or the classic rock station, or whatever else is out there. Hormones do three major things to the target cell. They will change what it's doing in gene expression. So if it's making certain proteins, it might stop making them, or it might start making a protein it wasn't making. Enzyme activity. There can be enzymes in the cell that are shut off, and the hormone turns them on, or the other way around. They can also alter membrane permeability in the way that nervous signals can open an ion channel. An endocrine signal can do that, or in the case of insulin, it puts glucose channels in the membrane so the cells can take the glucose in from the blood. There's two major categories of hormones that work differently on the cell. Steroids, these are hydrophobic. Somebody tell me what hydrophobic means.
They don't like water.
They don't mix with water. Okay. And that makes the difference in how they can affect the target cells. They're all built from cholesterol, which is these four rings, and then what makes it a different hormone is which things are attached around the outside. Everything else is a non-steroid hormone. These are usually made from amino acids. They are hydrophilic. Okay. What's hydrophilic?
They like water.
It likes water. Okay. The categories within non-steroid, there are amines, which are made from one amino acid, peptides that are short chain, like this one shown here. Several of the pituitary hormones are like this. Full-on proteins that are bigger chains of amino acids, and glycoproteins, where it's a chain of amino acids with some carbohydrates attached. Steroid hormones come from two main glands, the adrenal cortex and the gonads, which is ovaries and testes. Because they are hydrophobic, the cell membrane doesn't stop them. They just go straight in. There's a receptor somewhere inside the cell that they bind to. It could be out in the cytoplasm, or it might even be in the nucleus. And the hormone and receptor together will go attach to DNA. That leads to transcription. Anyone remember transcription? We copy the gene so that we can make the protein. So your steroid hormones act through gene expression, that first method of affecting the cell activity. So they tend to be slow to take effect and to last longer because it takes some time to make some copies of the mRNA, make some proteins, get those proteins active. And maybe those proteins need to go somewhere else too, like get secreted from the cell. Now, thyroid hormones, even though they're not steroids, actually have transport proteins to bring them in. And so they're going to act the same way. We need a carrier for them. I'll show it like this. Thyroid hormones are going to do one additional thing, which is stimulate mitochondria. We'll talk about that when we get to the hormones' activities or effects. Oops. Didn't mean to still have that on there. Okay. So this shows the steroid hormone coming in, binding to the receptor, going to the DNA. We make mRNA. We make the protein. I'm going to stop the video while I run this video.